This first handout has a lot more going on that might at first be apparent, so hold on to your hats, it's going to be a lot of fun. Firstly, getting started is easy. Whatever the objects that you're going to use, whether they be pom-poms or buttons or what have you, just have the students put 2 different objects on the first card. And then have them all try and see if they can make a second card. One that has to have at least one match with that first card. Most of them won't have any trouble making that second card, but encourage them to check on each other, keep each other honest. And then once they've got a second card, have them try and make a third card. Now a lot of the students will realise that if they take the same object that matched in the first 2 cards and put it on a third card, they could just put any other object on the third card and they'd have a third card. And then many of them will realise that they could actually make a 4th card the same way, or a 5th card, or a 6th card. Ask them if they'll ever run out, if there's a limit on how many cards they can make. Some of them might come back to you and say, well, we might run out of buttons or we might run out of pom-poms, and that's all good and well, but there's no actual mathematical reason why we couldn't just keep making cards. So that's kind of interesting. But then point out to them that if they were playing that spot it game and every card had the same matched object, so they all had a red pom-pom, well, it wouldn't be a particularly interesting game, would it? So then wind back and suggest to them that they should try, after making 2 cards, see if they can make a 3rd card that doesn't have the same object matching the first 2 cards. And it's not so bad. We just take the second object on the first card, and now we have to take the second object on the second card, and we put those 2 objects on a 3rd card, and we have a 3rd card. And after they've made a 3rd card, see if they can make a 4th card. Only now, well, actually now it's impossible. But don't tell them that. Let them tell you. Let them try and figure it out. And at some stage they'll say, I don't think so. I don't think this can be done. And once they're all convinced that they can't make a 4th card, well, ask them to turn the problem around. See if they could convince you that making a 4th card is impossible. So in reality here, we're stuck. We have 3 cards already. Suppose we try for a 4th card. It has to match one of the objects on the first card. Let's say it matches the first object. Well, that's great for the first 2 cards, but now what about the 3rd card? In order to match the 3rd card, it can't match the second object from the first card, because otherwise it would match both objects on the first card. So it has to match the second object on the second card. Either that means we've got a copy of the original card, or we have a copy of the second card. Now the same argument works if we had to pick the second object on the first card to begin with. But have your students convince you of all of this? At any rate, as you can see, there was a lot more going on than we might have expected. It kind of reminds me of one of my favourite descriptions of mathematics, to think deeply about simple things. Alright, have a go. Get your students to do that, to think deeply about this simple problem.